Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Jayo Gopi Jana Ballabha Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Nama Om Krishna Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivasesha Sunyavadi Paskatare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So text 28, chapter 17. What?
Wait, text 20, what did you say?
I mean text 38. 38.
You got 37.
Oh, 37. Okay, 37.
It should be 36.
We did that 2 verses.
Oh, did 2? Okay.
So it's 37, and we got that straight. It's still chapter 17, and still in the first canto. Punishment of and reward of Kali. Tan me dharma vritam shvesta stanan. Oh, that's it. Tam me dharma vritam shvesta.
Tam me dharma vritam shvesta.
Tan me dharma vritam shvesta.
Tam me dharma vritam shvesta.
Stanam nirdeshtu arhasi. Stanam nirdeshtum arhasi. Yatraiva vatsya
yatraiva niyato vatsya
atishtam te nusasanam atishtam te nusasanam tanme dhamma vritam shesta stanam dedeshtam ahasi yatraiva niyato vatsya atishtam te nusasanam tanme dhamma vritam shvesta stanam nirdeshtam ahasi yatraiva niyato vatsya atishtam te nusasanam. Was that 3 times? Huh? I'll do one more. Tanme dharma pritam shrestha stanam nirdeshtum ahasi yatraiva niyato vatsya atishtam te nusasanam. Someone else, please.
Tanme dharma vritam shrestha sthanam nirdeshtum arhasi yatraiva niyato vatsya atishtam te nusasanam.
Tanme dhamma vritam shrestha stanam nirdeshtam arhasi yatraiva niyato vatsya adhistam te nusasanam.
Ladies.
Tanme dharma vritam shrestha stanam nirdeshtum arhasi yatraiva niyato vatsya atishtam te nusasanam.
Tanme dharma vritam shrestha
Tanme dhamma vritam shrestha
Saram nirdeshtum arhasi yatraiva niyato vatsya atishtam te nusasanam.
Okay then, word for word. Tat, therefore. May, me. Dharma Pritam, of all the protectors of religion. Shrestha, O chief. Stanam, place. Nirdeshtum, fix. Arhasi, may you do so. Yatra, where? Eva, certainly. Niyata, always. Vatsya, excuse me, I said that wrong. Vatsye, can reside. Atishtan, permanently situated. Te, your. Anushasanam, under your rule. So, I'll say the first few words and you can repeat. Translation by Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion,
Therefore, O chief among the protectors of religion,
please fix some place for me,
Please
fix some place for me,
where I can live permanently
where
where
I can live
permanently
under the protection of your government.
under the protection of your government.
So this is the personification of your religion speaking, Kali. So I'll read it again. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me, where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. I mean, it's a pretty amazing request. I mean, this is the personification of your religion, and he's asking basically the most virtuous king, whose goal is to keep irreligion out of any corner of his kingdom. Can you please find some place so I'll be under your protection, but yet I can still be me? So interesting. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Kali addressed Maharaj Pariksit as the chief amongst the protectors of religiosity, because the king refrained from killing a person who surrendered unto him. A surrendered soul should be given all protection, even though he may be an enemy. That is the principle of religion. And we can just imagine what sort of protection is given by the personality of Godhead to the person who surrenders unto him, not as an enemy, but as a devoted servitor. The Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sins and all resultant reactions of sinful acts. Bhagavad Gita 1866, which is the famous Sarvadhamam Parityajya Mam Ekam Saranam Vaja Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Moksayashami Masacha. Abandon all varieties of religion. Just surrender unto me. I will protect you from all reactions and all sin. Have no fear. You know, this is a loose translation. And that always has been something that even throughout all of the sampradayas, the different schools of Vaishnavism, this concept of what Krishna says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, this verse, as it is one of the last in the last chapter, where Krishna finally sums things up and says, therefore, after I've instructed all these things to you, all these different paths of yoga, and what this material world is, and who you are, and he's saying, just surrender to me. I'll protect you. Don't worry about all these other processes of yoga or search for knowledge. And just you surrender to me. So, and this was asked by one of the disciples of Ramanujacharya, who is like from the 10,000, 1016 or 1070, in that era. So over, 1,000 years ago. And one of his disciples, I think his name was Koshara. And he asked him what was the meaning of this verse. Now this person, before he had asked him this question about what was the meaning of this verse, there was an incident because Ramanujacharya was preaching pure bhakti. This was a threat to other teachers of less pure religious activities. They felt threatened by him. Even the king of that district that they were in was feeling threatened. And so the king had asked that Ramanuja come and defend his philosophy in front of him and his pundits. And the arrangement was, of course, if you win, we execute you. And if you lose, then you must sign a document that says you've been defeated and your teachings aren't as superior as ours. So this disciple, Koshara, or Koshari, I don't remember the exact pronunciation, he says, please, Gurudev, please let me go instead. You are too important. Let me, and this was his best disciple. He was very erudite, very expert in presenting the philosophy of that Ramanuja, his Siddhanta, his teachings. And so he said, please let me go. Let me just dress up like a sannyasi and I'll go and you go and take shelter in the forest. So it's all agreed, everyone agrees that he should do it. And his disciple defeats the king and his pundits. And so he says, well, will you admit that you were defeated? The king says, will you admit you were defeated? He said, no, I'm not going to admit I was defeated. Everyone can see that this philosophy is superior. So he said, well, then you have to be executed. But then the king's daughter came running up to him and says, Father, don't you remember? She's thinking this is Ramanuja Acharya. And a few years prior, when she was a younger girl, she was haunted by ghosts. And the king had sent for Ramanuja to exorcise those ghosts. And he did so. I think he put her feet on his head, or vice versa. But there was something to that effect. And she became free of this. She was being tormented, like something right out of The Exorcist. And she said, don't you remember, he's the one who's freed me from that awful ghost. So the king said, yes, that's all right. Yes, I remember now, yes. Well, therefore I won't kill him. I'll just burn out his eyes. So they do so. They burn out his eyes. So he goes back to Ramanuja. Some time passes by, and he comes to see Ramanuja, still with no eyes, and there's a program going on, and Ramanuja sees his condition, and there's a mystical breeze that they're in front of the at Sri Rangam, it's the Ranganath deity, and there's a breeze blowing, a mystical breeze that blows over the lotus feet of the deity of Ranganath, and then blows into the eyes of his disciple, and he regains his sight. This is so. At this time, now the disciples asking, what is the meaning of this 1866 Sarvadhamam Pratajam, surrender everything? And he says, Ramanuja says, well, you're a very, very erudite preacher. You're also very aristocratic. He was living a very comfortable life. He was very wealthy. He said, so you have great respect in society. You have good life. What I request you to do, to teach you this, that you give all that up, and for 1 year you could live as a mendicant, begging from door to door, alms. And the disciple says, but Gurudev, I may die in a year. I don't know when I'll die. I need to know sooner. So he said, all right, we'll do it for 1 month then. So he goes out, he does this for 1 month. And he lives like a mendicant begging. And after the end of the 1 month, he comes back and asks for an explanation. There was a slight pregnant pause there for dramatic effect. And so Ramanuja Acharya says that it's because it's the meaning of this verse is that it is not by simply studying and reading and learning verses, things like of this nature, performing penances or doing pious work. It's that you attain. That isn't the real meaning of surrender. Surrender means when you completely give up all of your external symptoms of comfort or respect, and just you completely develop full humility, as humble as a blade of grass. I mean, as Lord Chaitanya stated. In other words, he's saying that surrender means humility, full humility. And there's another example that is also in the Ramanuja line, but because of time, I think I'll just skip that one. And so the point is that he said, he's telling his disciple it has to be full humility to surrender. Now, I've often thought about this, the difference of what this means, because when our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, came to the Atlanta temple in 1975, he said a very interesting thing when he first saw Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda on the altar. That really has stuck in my mind, and I'm sure in the mind of many of the devotees that were there. Because when he was looking at the deities, we were seeing these bell metal statues, but he was actually seeing Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. You could see that he was actually seeing, like we have these marble statues here, and that is actually Lord Nityananda standing right there. That is actually Lord Chaitanya. That is actually Radharani standing there. That is Radhakanta or Krishna. Srila Prabhupada sitting there. They're all right there on the altar. I walked in the Pujari room the other day, and Leela Avatar, who was that's the masculine, I'm sorry, Mother Leela Avatar, I'm remembering the Vaishnava etiquette class from Bhakti Churu. So she had gotten the time thing mixed on Monday, and she was there early, and she was listening to a class. I believe it was with Radhanath Swami. And I don't know what the pastime was, but Radhanath was saying that this devotee says, I just realized all this time that Krishna's been in my house. God, the Supreme Personality's been in my house. And I didn't take advantage. I mean, I acted like he was just, another guest. Like when Arjuna, after he sees the universal form, and he's like, he's awestruck, I've sat on the same bed with you. I've joked with you. I've acted in such informal ways. But this is in the mood of awe and reverence. And what we're talking about with these devotees, because Arjuna's in the mood of course, at that time he had surrendered to him and became his disciple. But he was basically, his relationship was always as a friend in the friendship rasa. But when I heard that, at that moment, it struck me that when Radhanath was saying that this person is saying, "Oh, Krishna's been in my house all this time," it struck me that Krishna's in my heart all this time. And I don't appreciate it. So it made me stop to think about this point that when Prabhu was sitting there, he said, the same Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal are now standing right here on your altar. And we could all see that he was really seeing the Supreme Personality of God. We did. We saw the deities. So he then said, when Krishna came 5,000 years ago, he demanded that you surrender. But Lord Chaitanya has come, and with his arms like this, and he's begging you to take shelter. And I've been constantly thinking of this. What does this mean? Because surrender means to yield to someone who's superior. And shelter means to take refuge. Like there's an expression in the West, you don't know when to come in out of the rain. The rain is pouring down on you, and you realize you have to come in and take shelter. So karma is falling down on us, and we have an opportunity to take shelter of this process. So this is the age of Kali, okay? So and we just discussed how Parikshit Maharaj is giving Kali respite, a place to live in his kingdom of religion. Now Kali has become stronger and stronger. So now he thinks this is his age. But actually, since Lord Chaitanya appeared, this is the age of causeless mercy. Causeless divine mercy. That is shelter. Causeless means we don't deserve this mercy. We have received something that is priceless. But there used to be an ad for one of the credit cards. I think it actually was MasterCard, which is really ironic. MasterCard. And it would be like a picture of a father with his son, and says you taking your son to the first Super Bowl game, and it gives the price of the plane ticket, and then it gives the price of the Super Bowl ticket and the price of the refreshments, and then it adds it all up, and then it says, but seeing his face at the opening kickoff, priceless. So it doesn't matter, you just drop, $10,000 on a credit card at 20% interest, but that's priceless. No, priceless is you get to vibrate Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. How can you put a price on God and chanting His name? There's a very beautiful story from the Chaitanya Mangala that really illustrates our position. And this is when Lord Chaitanya was a child. He was playing with some friends down by the bank of the Ganges, and there was a mother dog who had just given birth to, a bunch of puppies. They were very small. And one of them got separated from the mother and the other dogs. And Lord Chaitanya immediately, it was as if the dog took shelter of Lord Chaitanya. They began to play together. And one of his friends says, you can't do that. You're a Brahmin. You're from a Brahmin family. This is very, very moochy. That dog is dirty. You can't. It's contaminated. And you must immediately stop touching that dog and playing with that dog. And Lord Chaitanya looked at him and said, this dog is my friend. And you won't tell me who to associate with. So he brings the dog home, Lord Chaitanya. And at that time, he had 3 different names. His grandfather gave him the name Vishvambara. I believe his mother gave him the name, was it Nimai? And then villagers, the ladies gave him the name Gora Hari. But he brought the dog home and he went into his room, and his mother walks in, Mother Sachi, and she sees the dog, and he's playing with the dog. And she says, "What are you doing? We don't allow dogs in our house. Get this dog out of here." He said, "If this dog leaves, I leave too." He's a little boy. And Mother Sachi's a little perplexed on that one. What is she going to do? She loves her son. So she's a little, anyway, she goes, "Well, okay." I think she stalls for time, maybe when her husband comes home. But then there's one point when Lord Chaitanya leaves to go do something with his mother, and when they come back, the dog is gone, because the mother dog came back looking for her puppy, and that the dog left to go with the mother. And Lord Chaitanya Nimai was very, very upset. He was very small, young, I don't know the exact age, let's say 5, 6, like that. And he was very, very upset, very angry. So, and he was blaming his mother. And she also became upset because she didn't want to get the wrath of her son. My mother wants to please her son. So they went out looking. But in the meantime, the dog goes off into the village with the other puppies and Lord Chaitanya, and the mother. And then the dog starts to show these symptoms of ecstatic love. Tears start flowing from his eyes. And then he stands up on his hind legs and puts up his other 2 paws and starts chanting, "Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." And each time it's getting more and more ecstatic, and he starts dancing. And then he starts dancing down the street. And everyone else is looking on in amazement. Finally, there's a few villagers stop everything. And they see the dog dancing. "Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." So gradually the crowd grows, gets bigger and bigger. So finally there's not just a few dozen, few hundred, there's 1,000, thousands of the whole village is following. And the dog is leading them on this kirtan, "Hare Krishna, like that. So then he gets down to the bank of the Ganges. He touches the Ganges. He lays down. And the soul exits the body and goes back to Goloka. That is causes mercy. That is priceless. That is what we have received. Lord Chaitanya says that when the gopis heard, I believe it was the 5th note of the flute of Krishna, the 5th note of Krishna's flute, they all just stopped where they were, and whether they were cooking for their family or doing some other housework, whatever, they stopped everything and forgot all social formalities and ran to the forest to meet Lord Chaitanya. To meet Krishna in the forest, to dance with him under the moon, the full moon night at Seva Kunja. They were willing to give up everything. They were outcasts now. They broke all social etiquette. They left married women, unmarried women. They now were dancing with Krishna because they heard the sound of his flute. They couldn't control their love. That is surrender. Surrender means you give up everything You don't care whether or not how society judges you. You don't care whether people like you. You're not interested in a popular vote. You become as humble as a blade of grass, more trinada pi sunichena, toro eva sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtanaya sada hari. You give up all this, but first you have to clean your heart. And that's this process of bhakti yoga, this Vaidhi bhakti process that Prabhupada has laid out a schedule for us, where we rise early and we come and see the deities in the evening dress, and we sing prayers to the spiritual master, and then we, the pujaris, and then we worship Srimad Tulsi Maharani. Then we do the bathing and dressing of the deities, and devotees chant 16 rounds on their beads. And then we go and we greet the deities. And we see them after they've been bathed and dressed and decorated together. And then we worship the Guru together. And then we sit down and we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam together. And we meditate on the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His qualities, and His devotees. This is the process that Prabhupada, of course he also gave us an evening program, which I follow by myself at home. But this is the process of Bhakti Yoga that he's laid out. It's a science, and gradually cleanses our heart from all of the lifetimes of trying to enjoy separately from Krishna. We have so many desires, we don't even know. Sometimes all of a sudden, a certain thing will come in your mind and you're thinking, where did that come from? I never thought about that before. Because there's the fructified desires, and there's the ones that are about to become fructified, and those that are laying dormant. We have desires from many, many lifetimes. But this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, by really and trying to avoid the 10 offenses, it's a gradual process, but it cleanses our hearts. It cleans it. Cetodharmanamarjanam. So, and when we develop the humility of someone like the disciple of what was his name? Ramanujacharya. There's a very nice other story where another one of his disciples, but I don't have time for that now, and who wanted to know the same meaning. But my point is I heard Prabhupada say, and it stopped all of us in our tracks. He said, Krishna came 500 years ago to teach surrender. Lord Chaitanya came and is begging you to take shelter. And because we can't quite get the surrender part. So at least come and take shelter of his process of chanting. Because Prabhupada came all the way across the ocean at an advanced age. We all know the story. And with nothing. So that malechas, who are lower than dogs in some cases, can get a chance to have the opportunity to chant this mantra. And this mantra is priceless, as Master Card would say. This is the age of causeless mercy, not the age of Kali. Hare Krishna. Anyone have anything to say? Anyway, it's 8:30, we're already 25. Okay then, thank you. Hare Krishna.